Good evening, folks. Mike Schuris here at the Antler Collector, and happy Halloween. We're going into November, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about the border brute buck and the 4-point shed off of this deer. So I've been kind of doing these episodes where the first set I talked about was the smallest set, and then the next set was a 220 set off the deer, estimating their ages at 3 to 4 on the first set, 4.5 to 5.5 on the second set. So if you listen to the other videos, which most of you probably have, I did do a video regarding the 4-point. I did it outside here about a week and a half ago. I'm going to do a little bit more in detailed depth about the shed and when it was discovered and all that here in this video clip. So yeah, this here's a big set of typical sheds. Not to change the subject, but I know a lot of people are probably going to wonder, what is that? But this is a big set I found. I found this antler, and a buddy picked up this one. I'll tell you more about that in another video, but this one here is 90, with half the repaired brow. It's the brow was broken half, and it's repaired back. It's like 92 as a typical 6. 2.5 inches broke, so it's like 89.6 on the typical side. This one's 87 as a 5. But this was completely missing, and the brow, so those are repaired back. But it's a 200 plus set the way they are gross. Anyway, I won't get off the subject, but I figured a lot of people would be asking the questions about that, and that's a 205, 206 inch gross set, the way they are mounted of sheds that I had found in the year 2000 on this one, and this one was found about a week later, or maybe even less. Getting back to the the border brute buck. So that night I told you I got the call that I better get here to Alan Kane's house, who killed the deer, because he was going to have this guy bring a shed over off the deer that he had seen. And he had told me that it was a 4-point, and I was like, are you sure it's that deer? He said, yeah. He said, it's got the same type of G3 on that deer. So okay, so I'm thinking, man, what is this antler? So when I get to Alan Kane's house, I had a replica of the big set that I got from the lady, which will be the next story on the border brute. I brought that set in the house. It was a replica. It was on a skull, and I was looking at it with the 240 class rack that Alan had killed that year off of this deer. And we were estimating the buck to be about 8 to 9 years old when it was killed, according to the 5 years of sheds. I'm on the floor of his house. And knock knock, a guy comes to the door, which was the farmer who brought in the set that I just did the video on last night. And then a little bit later, 10 minutes or so, I'm still on the floor looking at Alan's antlers with the border brute, replica, and I'm amazed at how big the whole animal was. I'm just looking at it going, my goodness. Well, the door knocks again, and I remember Alan yelling, come on in, and he opens the door. And this was Jim Baber, I believe his name was. I got it written down. It's either Jim or Jeff, but I think it was Jim. Jim opens the door, and when he pushed the inside door open, this is what I saw. And I'll never forget, I was on the floor, and I said to myself, oh my God, is that a 20-inch tine? When he was carrying it by his side, I mean, this is what I see. I mean, look at that, guys. This is up against me. This right here, when I first saw it, I thought, is that a 20-inch G2? It looks it to me when I first saw it. So I get up and I'm like, hey, I shake his hand, and I'm just like, in my mind, I'm flipping out. I'm like, oh my goodness. I pick this thing up, and I mean, I'm holding this antler thinking to myself, this is the greatest 4-point I've ever seen. I mean, I've never seen nothing so impressive in my life. And when I held it up next to the set that I had from the woman there, the big 215 typical frame 5x5 set, this being 18 and this being 15.6, just, even though the mother ones are 15 and 16, and even on the one side it's 17, it was just something about this G2 being 18 and this being 15.6, and they're bigger round points, they're not skinny, they're bigger round points. It just looks so overpowering. And so I'm talking to him, and man, I tell you, you talk about wanting to take an antler home. It's probably the worst I ever wanted to take an antler home. and they had no interest. He had no interest in selling it. He said, I gave it to my son, and it's up on his wall or mantle or whatever in his room. So, man, what do you say to that? You know, you just kind of go, okay. We talked a little bit more, and he said if you would like, we would probably let you have a replica of it. Well, being a purist and an antler collector, I'm not big in the replicas, so that would be just kind of like salt in the wound. It's not something I collect on the replicas. I mean, yeah, I would love to have one, I guess, just to have and look at, but it's not what we want as collectors. So anyway, if you're going to spend money, spend it on the real deal, if it's going to be a lot of money. So time went by. I left there that night I couldn't believe it. I'm like, I'm leaving without this antler. It took about 3 months, and by God, we came to an agreement. The agreement was a replica, the replica I brought on the full skull, and a dollar figure. And when they said they would do it, I was there that morning at 9 o'clock. And this was the antler that I brought home, and I'm thankful just for it to be a part of the collection because it's a tremendous for. Just the typical frame is 85.6, which it looks 90 all day. It's just one of those antlers, but 21 and 6/8 from here to the lowest part of the burr. It's like 19.6 to this one, but the 21.6 is a huge number. When you hit the 20 mark, that's what the collectors consider. That's the mark we kind of look for. So a half inch after that is really big. So to hit 21.6, that's kind of a milestone mark. Very few antlers hit that number. Very few big antlers hit that number. There's been antlers that have grew, tall, like from the beam. But when you have one that gets it from the tine pretty much up, that tells you a lot. It's very full looking because it gets that height from tine length. So it's going to look overpoweringly huge next to other antler. So he found it drilling beans and corn stubble. And like I said, I kind of told this story. It was hit by a drill and flung in front of the tractor, and that's how he found it. If you look right here, there's nothing repaired on this antler, but right there's where the drill hit it. And it grabbed it right here. It's a lip, and it flung, and that thing must have, the brute force broke this sticker off. And nothing else was damaged. Thank God that's all that's done to that antler because it's just an iconic piece in the collection. So he saw that thing laying in front of the tractor or in front of the disc there and jumps out, put the tractor halts on and shut it off. They called the family members. They came down, they looked for 2.5 hours in the corn stubble and they could not find nothing. And let alone the deer sheds the year before were found in the same field near the wood line, chopping wood. His brother found them, both sides, side by side. This deer generally does drop them side by side from prior sets that we know of. We know of 3 sets. I got 3 sets, and they were all side by side. So it's like, where is this? Was it probably there? Probably. And then as the story continues, the next antler was the big set, and then the 5-point. But I wanted to share this with you. It's just an uncrazy, godly, gigantic antler. That's a 90-inch antler here. A big antler. This is 87, but I mean the size of this thing versus those, it's just crazy. Like there's no comparison. Anyway, real quick, I wanted to tell you also because I've had some people ask me in other posts about this antler. So the total inches are 91 and change. And it nets, if you take off all the deductions, it nets 80. And people were having a hard time understanding that. You take your net, you get your net off of only your typical frame. So it's 85.6 on the 4 points. Then you got to take off the abnormal here and this abnormal, which total 5.6. So it drops it straight to an even 80. But the gross is 90. So some people were saying, well, how does it gross 90 typical? Well, it's not gross 90 typical. That's the total inches gross non-typical with the 2 stickers. So anytime you net your antler out for the record books, it's going to be a net score off of only the typical frame. Now, if it would have been clean, it would have just stayed 85.6. But with these abnormals, for the entry, you got to take these off. I promise you, there's not a bigger 80-inch net antler out there. That's what I'll tell you. Anyway, I hope you guys had a great Halloween. And we will catch you on the next round. This thing's already 10 minutes. Time's flying. But I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good evening, and hope you enjoyed the post. Thank you.